Well, my name's Elisa Moore, and I'm the Education Coordinator and a Certified Housing and Credit Counselor with Housing and Credit Counseling, Inc., also known as HCCI, in Topeka, Kansas. Our mission at HCCI is to counsel and educate all individuals to reach their personal housing and financial goals. So we hope that you will give us a call. I will go and tell you about us at the end of the presentation, at the end of the class. So if you ever need to call, you'll know how to get a hold of us. Tonight we're going to be talking about developing a spending plan, tips on how to stay organized, and also some Q&A. As we go through this, if you do have any questions, please just throw up your hand. I'd be more than happy to answer them during the class. You don't have to wait till the end. Does anybody know what a spending plan is? Anybody ever heard of a spending plan?
A budget.
Exactly, yes, it's a budget. It's the new nice way of saying budget because for some reason budget became the B word. It's a bad word now. Why do you think that is? Why do you think people don't like the word budget?
Restricted.
Exactly. It tells you how to spend your money. It reins you in. And who likes that? It's so adult, right? We don't like to have to do that all the time. But a budget helps us so much. So instead of referring to the B word as budget, maybe we can instead refer to it as maybe a blueprint instead. The reason for that is because the way that a budget can help you is you're planning ahead. You're planning for uncertainty, the unknown, those things that tend to happen at us. And as a result of that, when those things happen at us, if we don't have a budget, it throws our whole life into disarray. Whereas if we have a budget or a blueprint, then we can actually sit down, see how much money we actually do have to work with. And if we don't have a lot of extra money to work with, maybe there's things in our budget that we can actually trim back or even get rid of for a couple months so we can pay that particular bill. Okay? So think of it more as a blueprint. But it is a spending plan. When you're thinking about budgeting, it's always a good idea to start with goals. Okay? We always say take it from the standpoint of wants versus needs, the economic way of thinking. You can't have everything you want when you want it. Sometimes you have to make sacrifices and compromises to get the things you want, as well as every type of choice you make in your life has some type of a consequence, regardless if it's positive or negative. One of the easiest ways to put a goal together and to stay on track is to use what's called the SMART system, which is an acronym. It stands for specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time frame. Now, what does that all mean? Well, when you're creating your goal, you want it to be specific. You want it to be measurable. Do you have to have baby steps to reach your goal? Sometimes people make goals that are so huge that they work on them for a while and then they get discouraged because it's taking them forever to reach them. So maybe break it down into smaller goals. And that's what you do. You measure it out. Make sure that you can attain it easily. Attainable just means that, and relevant. Look at your lifestyle, look at your situation right now, and make sure that your goals align with that. I would love to have a Maserati. Am I going to have a Maserati tomorrow? No. Am I going to have a Maserati in 10 years? Probably not, because I don't play the lottery. So that's not a relevant or attainable goal for me right now. And then finally, time frame. Why do you think it's a good idea to put a date stamp on your goals?
So you don't give up on them?
Yeah, so you don't give up. So you have kind of a track, a path, right? So if I said, I want to take my kids to Disneyland, do you think I'm ever going to take my kids to Disneyland? More than likely not, because that's going to be a back burner item. I sure would like to take them, but if I put a date stamp on, I want to take my kids to Disneyland in 2 years, then what happens? Am I calling the travel agent?
Should be.
Am I finding out how much it's going to cost to take my kids to Disneyland? You bet. And then I can divide that number by 24 and know how much money I have to set back each and every month so I can reach that goal. So that's why they say put, a timestamp on everything when it comes to your goals. When you use this type of method, it's going to make things a lot less complicated and it's really going to increase your success rate in meeting your goals. I handed out a supplemental packet that should be in front of you as well, in addition to the PowerPoint. And it's going to have some worksheets in it that are going to pop up on here. So if you could look at those as we are looking at them on the screen, I'd appreciate it. This first worksheet talks about goals, and there's different types of goals, different time frames for goals. And so just so you understand where your goal is supposed to go in relationship to this, I'll give you some time for you. Let's see. So a short-term goal would be any goal that's 6 months or less. What do you think a short-term goal might be for yourself then?
Save a certain amount of money.
Sure, yeah. I want to save $100 within 6 months. It's possible, right? You just have to buy it out and figure out how much you have to save back each month. Some people, they get on, you know, a credit card or situation where they have to have it paid off within 6 months or else all this interest gets added onto it. Same kind of deal. Some people just want to have a credit card paid off or a certain bill paid off. So that would be a short-term goal. When I was first starting out, let me just tell you, I wasn't the sharpest tool in the shed when I was younger, and I was really poor with my finances. And so one of my very first goals when I started using a spending plan was, I want to be able to pay my bills on time this month in full. That was it. Do you think I reached that goal? Yeah, sure I did. One thing, it was in the front of my brain. I made it, I was in control of it. And I made it a short goal, a very short goal, 30 days. So I made it very easy for me to attain as well. But yes, I did. And then what do you think happened after I achieved that goal that first month?
You kept doing it
That's right. And why is that?
because it felt good to do
That's
it.
right. I accomplished something. I actually did something right after I was doing so many things wrong with my finances. So yeah, midterm goals. This would be any goal that's from 6 months to 5 years. So what might a midterm goal be for yourself?
New car?
New car, yeah. Your car might go out. You might just want to get a new car. So in the meantime, what could you be doing if you know that you're probably going to have to get a new car?
A little bit of money back each week or each month or each pay period.
For what? What are we saving up for?
The new car.
The new car, yeah. So a down payment, or if you want to pay for the car outright, absolutely. Also, some people say, I want to purchase a home at some point. Also, think about things that happen around you. I also refer to the midterm goal as a peripheral goal, because usually things break down. So do look at your vehicle. You know, are you going to need new tires? Tires are not inexpensive anymore. So maybe you're going to have to put, you know, $400 or $500 into your car, and it's a good time to save up for it. Appliances. Appliances don't usually let you know that they're going to go out, do they? Not typically. You just kind of open up the fridge door and it's just not right in there. And so you're going to have to run out and get a new refrigerator. So save back for those types of things that when life happens at you. And then finally, the long-term goal. Long-term goal is 5 years plus. So we're talking retirement. We're talking about vacation, depending on where you want to go. Any questions about goals before I move on? These are the important items that you'll want to include in your spending plan. So anything that has to do with housing. So when you think of housing, what comes to mind?
Insurance,
Insurance?
taxes.
Taxes. Oh, yeah. I'm sorry?
Utilities.
Utilities.
Mortgage payment.
Mortgage payment, yes. And if you rent a house, you got to pay the rent each month to a landlord. So yes, absolutely. Housing, utilities. My food category is actually a very general category because there are a lot of subcategories that go underneath it. But when you see food, what is the first thing you think of that you need to be paying out for each month in relationship to food?
Groceries.
Groceries, yes. We're going to the grocery store. What else?
Eating out.
Dining out, absolutely. And also, some places, you know, if you work in a place that has vending machines, perhaps you need that Diet Coke to get you through at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and maybe it costs you $1, $1.50 each time you do it, and you're doing it every day of the week that you're at work. That adds up. It adds up really quickly, and we don't realize it. So be sure and keep that in there. If you have children who are in school, they like to eat during the day, don't they? So you might have to pay for school lunches, or you might have to have extra money in your budget for groceries to let them take their lunch to school with them. So these are very broad, okay? So you need to make sure that your spending plan aligns with your life, okay? Make sure that everything that's up here is somehow included in that spending plan for yourself and that relates to you directly. Clothing. What do you think of when you see clothing?
Clothes that you wear every day.
Sure, your everyday clothes, right? And you know, I do meet with people in my office for counseling, and I'll say, well, how much do you think you spend on clothing throughout the year? They'll look down, they'll look back up, and they'll say, I haven't bought anything new for myself in at least 2 years. Really? How are your shoes doing? How are your undergarments doing? So regardless if you go out to Walmart, to Target, to Dillard's to purchase clothing for yourself, at some point you are replacing other items. You're replacing your shoes. You're replacing your undergarments. Also, think about your work clothes. If you have to wear steel-toed boots at work or have to have gloves, those things wear out. And sometimes they're not very inexpensive when you have to replace them. So these are things that you can be saving for in your spending plan as well. Medical, this could be medical insurance if you have to pay it on your own. Also, if you know you're going to have a procedure coming up, you can get with the insurance company and find out how much it's actually going to cost you out of your own pocket, and maybe you can start saving back, as much as you can before you have to have the procedure done. Education activities, this can be for you, this can be for your children. What happens once a year when you have kids? That's right, school. You have to enroll them, right? And unfortunately, with clothing, I neglected to mention, what do you have to do after you enroll them usually? That's right, school clothes, school supplies, everything that goes along with having a child that's in school. So make sure that you're accounting for that, as well as, like I said, your education. Maybe you're taking online courses. Maybe you don't want to have to use all of the financial aid that's offered to you each semester, and you can instead maybe buy your own books and supplies so you don't have to pay so much back at the end in student loans. Activities, these could be your activities, could be your kids' activities. I always worry about individuals who I meet with who the reason why they are actually seeing me is because of how much money they are putting out for their children so their children can have the Disneyland childhood that they did not have. So they have them in gymnastics. They let them play sports all throughout the year. And those things cost a lot of money, especially if they go to tournaments and the tournaments are out of town. You got to think about a hotel and food and everything else while you're on the road. So there's nothing wrong with when your children are young, are instilling good financial values in them. Instead of giving them everything, make them choose what it is that's most important to them, and then choose that one thing. Put your money towards that one thing each season for them to do. They're going to appreciate it more, number one, because they chose it themselves. And two, you are allowing them to grow into healthy adults, no matter how young they are. Because anytime that you give someone the power to make a decision on their own and they feel like they succeeded, all the better for you as a parent. Seriously. Mad money. What do you think mad money is?
Play money.
Play money. What's play money?
Go out to eat.
That's right. It's money for yourself. Money to blow. Do a lot of people have mad money just kind of lying around? No, not usually. So what happens when your friend calls you up and they say, oh, these kids, they've been driving me crazy all day. I want to go out and have some adult time. You want to meet me somewhere, get some coffee. If you do not have mad money in your budget and you're living paycheck to paycheck, there is the possibility that when you go out and you have a good time with your friend, that it's at the expense of not being able to pay one of your bills. If you have mad money in your spending plan, then you know how much you can actually go out and have a good time with, right? I also say having a budget is a lot like dieting. Whenever I'm on a diet, I'm keeping myself from doing something. I'm keeping myself from eating cookies or brownies. When you're budgeting, you're kind of doing the same thing, right? You're keeping yourself from purchasing things all the time. So when I'm on a diet, I'm usually good for the first 30 days, no problem. And then for whatever reason, I'm going to put my lunch away in the break room, and for some reason it's treat day. It never fails. And so there it is, the cookies, the brownies, the donuts, everything that I was avoiding at the grocery store the whole last 30 days and was succeeding in my goal. And there it is staring at me in the face. So here's Elisa. You know, I've been good the last 30 days. I've been good the last month. One's not going to hurt me, right? But do you think I eat just one? No. I'm going to thoroughly indulge myself and enjoy every minute of it and regret it later. Well, the same thing is true when you don't have mad money in your budget. and you're strapped so tight that you don't allow yourself to go out and spend money on yourself every once in a while. Because there is going to be that time that you're standing, oh, I don't know, maybe in Best Buy. And that thing that you've been wanting is right there looking right back at you. And guess what? It's on sale. Yes, it's on sale. So that's like the icing on the cake. So here you are in Best Buy. You know, I've been really good the last 6 months. I've been saving. I know that money is in there in the bank. I can afford this. I can buy it. I deserve it. I earned it. And so you have to make that choice of, do I go and take the money out and buy it, or do I leave it in there for something else? So having mad money in your budget is going to help you a lot, because you're not going to feel so constrained when it comes to your money in general. Transportation. What do you think of when it says transportation?
Fuel expenses.
Fuel expenses, okay?
Car insurance,
Car insurance,
repairs,
repairs.
payments.
Yes, loan payment on your vehicle, absolutely. Anything else we're missing?
Registration, taxes.
Exactly, yeah, property taxes on there. Because we live in Kansas and they expect us to do that every year. No, well,
You live on a dirt road, there's a big one, and that's car wash.
car wash. I understand, yes, a car wash would definitely have to be part of transportation. Now, if you possibly didn't have a vehicle of your own and you used public transportation and you had bus fare, or somebody else in the family had to use the bus, make sure that that's in your spending plan too. So it's not just a car. It can be any type of transportation. Maybe you have a friend that takes you around everywhere you need to go, takes you to doctor's appointments, takes you to the grocery store when you need it, and you're nice enough to pay them for that, and you're giving them gas money. That can be in your spending plan as well. Insurance. The only thing I'm going to mention about insurance, because yes, you need to have all types of different insurance in your budget, but the only thing that I usually mention is life insurance. And the reason why is because a lot of people make that a back burner item, especially when they're young. And there's two different types of life insurance out there. There's term life insurance and there's whole life. Term life insurance is just like it sounds. It's for a specific term, usually from 10 to 30 years. The premium's usually lower, but the great thing about that type of life insurance is more than likely it's going to cover your funeral, and it's going to cover whatever else you have in debt when you're with someone else, so they don't have to bear that burden. Because any debt that you incur together when you're married jointly, unless if you sign a special clause when you take out that loan, your spouse, your surviving spouse, is going to be responsible for it, okay? So having that life insurance might be able to offset and get rid of a lot of that other debt, so you don't have to worry about it. Whole life, a lot different. Usually the premium's higher, it builds up cash value over time, so at some point you can actually borrow against it if you want to. And then finally, savings. People look at that and they go, I don't have anything left over at the end of the month to put in savings. Well, you'd be surprised. I think a lot of people, they get discouraged because when you think of savings and putting money into savings, you're thinking of this big number. And it doesn't have to be a big number. And I found that out the hard way. When I first started out, I had my first checking account at a credit union. And when you have a checking account at a credit union, they require you to have a savings account with it. And so they said, well, Lisa, you're going to have your direct deposit into your checking account. Would you like us to move any of that money into your savings account? And I thought for a second, and I said, okay, $100. I was working part-time. I was living on my own. Do you think I ever had to dip into that $100 that was in my savings account every paycheck? Absolutely. And did you think I thought I was doing something wrong? Absolutely. Do you think I wanted to save anymore? No, because I was doing something wrong. I couldn't figure it out. So make sure that the goal when it comes to savings aligns with what's going on in your life, like everything else in your spending plan. So you start out with $5 a paycheck or $10 a paycheck, and as you get promotions or as you get rid of other debt, maybe you can put more into savings. But just have some type of money that you are putting into savings every month. That way you're building it up for yourself. Any questions regarding any of the items that should be in your spending plan before we move on? When we were talking about those different items, one thing that we were on was transportation, and we heard about property taxes. and maintenance. And these aren't things that typically happen every month, right? They're referred to as non-monthly expenses or periodic expenses. And I said, and there's a nifty way that you could put them in your budget, and I'm going to share that with you right now. Another worksheet that you have in your packet is the schedule of non-monthly expenses. The way that this works is along the top are the months of the year. Down the side are different types of non-monthly expenses that you might have. And once again, you might not have all of these. Maybe you have to write in some, but make sure it pertains to you, okay? Make it your own. In the second to last column, it says yearly cost. That's how much you know it's going to cost you that year or how much you estimate it's going to cost you. And then in the final column, it says average monthly amount. So, when Elisa was younger, I think we figured this out now that she wasn't the sharpest tool in the shed. So when Elisa was younger, her car taxes were due in July every year. Do you think when July rolled around every year that Elisa was ready to go up to the courthouse and pay for her car tags and taxes? Yeah, I was going to say, it's okay, you can talk bad about me, it's all right. No, I didn't. And I don't know why, because July is in the same spot every year, isn't it? It doesn't move. So I would go and pay for my car tags and taxes because I most definitely don't want to be driving around with an illegal tag, but it was at the expense of not being able to pay for something else, or maybe even two things that month and being behind. So all you have to do when it comes to your car tags is, if I lived in a perfect world and wasn't in Shawnee County and my car tag only cost me $120 a year, I divide that number by 12. How much do I have to put back for my car tag each month? $10. Doesn't seem like a lot, right? But that is what it is. And so what I do then is in January, where it has car tags, taxes, I put in $10. If you have something else, if you have union dues, if you subscribe to a newspaper, anything like that, just divide that number by 12 and you'll know exactly how much money to put back each month. And then down here at the end, you can add it all up, all right? So you know how much to put back. It's a good idea to have different types of savings accounts. Some people say, well, I can take care of this all in one account. I can break it up and know what everything's for. Other people, like me, would prefer to have separate savings accounts for these different things. The first one up at the top, it says emergency fund. Has anybody heard of an emergency fund in here? An emergency fund is 3 to 6 months of your monthly expenses put away in an account, untouched. You do not touch that sucker unless there's something major happens in your life. Something is happening at you, because that's what happens. So we're talking about maybe the death of a spouse, somebody becomes unemployed, somebody got laid off, maybe there was a natural disaster, maybe there was a fire. The reason why they want you to have an emergency fund is because whatever is going on in your life at that moment, the last thing you're going to want to have to do is worry about how in the world am I going to pay my bills now. So that's the main reason why we encourage people to have it. Now, 3 to 6 months of your monthly expenses, is this something that you're going to be able to build up overnight? Absolutely not. But getting started on it now means more money in it for you later. Okay? Periodic expenses, those are those non-monthly expenses that I shared with you. And then retirement. If you have retirement at work, 401k, 403b, those profit sharing plans, please take advantage of them. A lot of people, especially when they're young, they don't think about it. They're like, retirement, whoo, way over there. And unfortunately, it does creep up on you pretty quickly. So if you have the opportunity to be part of those profit sharing plans like that, please take advantage of it, because when you put money into it, then the employer is adding in a certain percentage up to a certain amount. So you're actually getting free money from that employer when you move on. So also with retirement, make sure you have some type of a plan B. Have some type of individual retirement account for yourself, an IRA. Don't think that the company retirement is going to pay for everything, okay? And you don't know if the company is going to be there later, and that's the sad thing anymore. Let's see. Next, we're just going to look at the budget worksheet itself that we provided to you. I also do have extras sitting up here on the table, so if you'd like more at the end, please feel free to take another one or 2 or 3. This is just a really basic way to put together a spending plan. One of our counselors took the time to actually break this down, so it's really easy to understand. At the bottom here where it says, my little arrow, it says summary. That's where you can write in your income, all of your expenses totaled up, how much you have in savings, how much you're putting in savings, as well as if you had a surplus or a deficit when it came to your budget at the end of the month. So it takes a lot of decisions to be able to be successful when you're doing your spending plan. People always ask us, well, how can I increase my income? That way I can pay all my bills. Well, there's the ever dreaded get another job, a part-time job on the evenings or on the weekends. Take the time to look at your expenses. Is there something that I can trim back? Is there something I can get rid of? Is there something I can live without? You'd be surprised at how some of those small things that we buy, like I mentioned, going to the vending machine, getting a pop, can add up so quickly. I met with one girl in my office for budget counseling, for financial counseling, and when we go through a budget with somebody, it's very extensive. So everything that I was mentioning in the spending plan, put that on like overdrive, like 150%, okay? So I get down to, well, do you do any dining out? And she says, no, I don't touch the stuff. And I wasn't going to question it. She's a petite little thing, obviously a jogger, very healthy. So I said, okay, and I moved on. When I get to the end of the budget process with her, I say, okay, is there anything else that you spend money on during the month I haven't already asked you about? And she said, well, I do hit Starbucks drive-through 2 or 3 times a week. Really? Anybody familiar with Starbucks? And how much you might be spending 2 to 3 times a week going through the drive-through? Quite a bit of money. I mean, upwards of $15, $20, $25, depending what you're walking away with. So maybe that's something she could trim back to help her out, especially if she's just in that rut right now where she just needs to get over it and be able to move on. So always be looking at your spending plan, seeing if there are ways to trim back for yourself at any time. Okay, moving on, some tips to stay organized. Establishing a routine for yourself is going to help you leaps and bounds when you have a spending plan. I have a date that I pay my bills every month. It's the 18th. Guess what? It's tomorrow. So I get to sit down tomorrow evening for 2 hours and pay my bills. But that's just the way it is. But having some type of routine really helps you out. It keeps you on track. When it comes to staying organized and making sure that you have your budget safe and sound, using old-fashioned paper or pencil, that is so okay. People say, well, that's very archaic. Why do you do that? And you know what? Whatever works for you, okay? So don't let somebody try to talk you out of something. Envelope method. How many people in here have heard of the envelope method? Okay. Have you ever tried the envelope method?
Me?
Yes, personally, yeah. Okay. How do you feel about the envelope method?
Well, when I was raising my kids by myself and living on nursing home pay, I had envelopes for cars, utilities, and had it on there, and that's just the way I did it.
Okay. And it kept you on track.
Yeah, because at the time I didn't have a checking account.
Yeah. And it's the easiest way to do it. Absolutely. Well, I'm glad to hear that you had a very positive experience with it, and that's what I hear most of the time. I myself personally would not have a positive experience with it because I have no self-control. I'm one of those people that's 105 degrees outside and I hear the ice cream truck coming down the street and suddenly I want a bomb pop. I go look at my wallet, there's no money in there. Where do you think I'm going next?
The envelopes.
That's right, I'm finding me an envelope with money in it. So you have to know yourself and how well you can manage your money before you use different types of methods. But yes, I have heard of people, just wonderful stories about how it changed their life. Online resources, there are places you can go online. One of them is www.mint.com. If you're one of these people that you like pretty bar graphs and pie charts to see where your money goes each month, this is the place for you to go. It's completely free. All you have to do is register your personal information and stay up to date. Put your information in for your income and your expenses each month for it to work for you. Software, you can go to any office supply sources like Quicken or anything else like that. And then finally, calendars. Just having a calendar. That's how I started out with my spending plan. I made sure to write in on the dates when bills were due, and it helped me out significantly. Know where you stand. Always be recording your transactions in your check register. Balance your checkbook if you still use a checkbook. Make sure you're balancing something, that you're keeping track of your receipts. That's another thing a lot of people don't do anymore. They don't keep track of their receipts. They just kind of swipe and trash the receipt. You need to be keeping track of them because if something were to show up on your bank statement, you need to have proof that it's wrong, okay? And it just makes it a lot easier when the receipt's there. Another reason why you want a receipt? Anybody have an idea? What's another reason why you want to have a receipt? Pardon?
Return.
Absolutely, returns. Yeah, a lot of places, they won't even look at you twice if you don't have the receipt to prove that you actually purchased it from there. So holding on to that receipt for at least the length of time that you have to be able to take it back. Let's see. Tracking your expenses, you can also use smartphone apps. There are a lot of free apps that are out there. You can go to Google Play or the App Store on Apple. The next worksheet that's in your packet is called a Fritter Finder, and it works with that pocket tracker, that little blue thing that kind of pulled it. Yeah, there you go. Let me grab one. What a Fritter Finder is it tells you how you fritter your money away each month. So this is not showing you your rent, your mortgage, your utilities. These are the things that you might purchase while you're out in the community. And so this is what I refer to as the master sheet. There's 2 sheets to this. And usually we have them front and back, but for your convenience, we have them split up. So across the top, it has the numbers 1 through 16. On the second sheet, it says 17 through 31. Those are the days of the month. Down the side are different types of expenses that you might purchase while you're out in the community. Once again, you might purchase all of those. You might purchase some of them. There might be some things you purchase that are not listed on there. Make this your own in order for it to work for you. What you do with the pocket tracker is you take this with you when you're out in the community. You leave that at home, you take this with you. You keep it in your wallet, keep it in your purse, and that way when you stop somewhere and you purchase something, not only are you holding on to that receipt for more than 10 seconds, but you're also going to write it in the right category, okay? Now, as you'll see in the first category here that says food, there's a dollar sign. What do you think you put next to that dollar sign?
An amount.
An amount, yes. And where do you think we're going to get that amount from? A receipt. Close. Our spending plan. Yeah. Right below is where we're going to put our receipt. But yeah, we're going to put whatever it says on our spending plan that we can spend for like dining out, hitting the drive-through, ordering in pizza, anything like that. If it says $50 is all that's in my current spending plan, then $50 is what's going to go there. And hopefully, when you're using this, you're making a point to look at it and go, oh geez, I've already spent X amount of dollars and I only have this much left to last me the rest of the month. So then when you get home, you transfer that information from the receipts that you wrote on here onto your master sheet in the respective day that you purchased that particular item, okay? I've known people that absolutely love this. I met with a gal one time. She came in because she had a $300 deficit at the end of the month, every time when she tried to pay her bills. When I worked up the budget with her, we came up with a $500 surplus. Yes, that wasn't possible. So she had no idea where her money was going each month. I said, why don't you try one of these things out for a month and then come back in and see me. And when she came back in, she had like 5 of these things. They were completely tattered, and so was her wonderful Fritter Finder. But she used it diligently. Every day, when she purchased something, she was writing it down, and she found out exactly where all her money was going. And it was going a lot of different places. But then at that point, we could sit down and actually put that spending plan together, because we knew how we could trim back things, how she could rein herself in a little bit. The last worksheet in your packet is the prioritizing expenses worksheet. When I told you we are very extensive when we go through a budget with somebody, it looks something similar to this, okay? So when you look at all those different items that are listed down the left, that's what we're asking people when we're talking to them about a budget. In that first column where it says budget, that's where you would write in how much that particular expense is, okay? So your mortgage, you put in whatever you have to pay each month. The next column is the survival column. The survival column is there for a very good reason. There could be a time when you don't have enough money to pay all your bills one month. And there's a way to prioritize your expenses to make sure that you keep yourself safe. And so what I like to do is just go through and explain what some of those expenses are. And then you can write them in if you want to. So what do you think is one thing that you would consider a priority? You absolutely have to pay it each month.
Mortgage.
Mortgage, yes. Your mortgage, your rent,
Electricity.
food, groceries, utilities, absolutely. Anything else? How about your car payment? What happens if you don't pay your car payment?
Supplemental health insurance.
Supplemental health insurance, yes. What happens,
Well, health insurance now.
what happens if you don't pay your car payment? Does it get repossessed possibly? Yeah. Let's see. Make sure you have your insurance paid, make sure that your tag's up to date. There are certain things that you just can't let go when they're due. Utilities, if you cannot pay for your utility bill, whether it's gas, water, electric, what is one thing you can do to try and protect yourself? You know you're not going to be able to pay your bill. What's one thing you can do?
Talk to utility.
That's right. You can call them up, you can explain your situation and say, there's no way I'm going to be able to pay this month. I don't even know if I'm going to pay a dime towards it. And what they can do is set you up on a payment arrangement. Usually, utility companies don't get mean with you until they have to track you down. And so as long as you're being proactive and you're opening up that line of communication, they're more than likely going to work with you to set up some type of a payment arrangement. And that's the same with your mortgage company too. You know, if you're keeping them in the loop in the beginning, hopefully they're working with you. They're telling you that there's other ways that you can stay in your home, that you don't have to go through the foreclosure process. And also, if you take medication, so many people that I talk to, and I say, well, how much do you spend on medication, prescription medication, over-the-counter medication? They look at me and they go, I haven't been able to buy my medication in 2 months. I hate that. I really do. I don't like the word hate that much, but I hate that. And so make it a priority. If your doctor has diagnosed you with something and says that you need to take this particular medication each month, it's a priority. Anything that has to do with the government. So what kind of things would the government come after us for?
Taxes.
Taxes, yeah. So property taxes, real estate taxes, student loans. If you don't pay your student loan for a certain period of time, you'll go into default, and then the government can come in and garnish your paycheck. They can wipe out your bank account. They're the government. So if you ever receive a letter in the mail from the IRS, from the state, talking about you need to pay into taxes, I know it's a difficult phone call to make. I've been there myself. But pick up the phone and call, because usually they're willing to work with you. They will set you up on a payment plan. They're not expecting you to pay it back in one lump sum. So that's what you would put into your survival column, okay? The next column is the comforts column. This is you're able to pay all your bills on time in full. You might not have a penny left over to your name, but by God, everything got paid. And then finally, the last column is the above and beyond column. Above and beyond is you actually have money left over. You've paid off enough things that you have a surplus at the end. And what are you going to do with that? And then you have the choice of where you want to put your money. Do you put it into savings? Do you add some more into your mad money? It's completely up to you. Always have your plan B, okay? That's your survival column, is your plan B. And there's always resources available. I'm sure there's lots of resources in Osage County that can assist you. There's United Way 211 that covers all of Kansas. If you ever run into a bind, you need a particular service, all you have to do is contact them, tell them what county you live in, the service that you need. If it's available, they will provide you with a whole list of different places that you can call. Level or average pay plans. This is wonderful when you have a spending plan because you don't have to worry about all those fluctuations in the winter and in the summer with your air conditioning and your heating. Everything pretty much stays the same all through the year. Food sharing programs, there's food drops, there's churches, there's all kinds of different places that you can go usually to try and help you when you're tight with your money on groceries. Hospital financial programs. I don't know how it is around here, but in Topeka, hospitals are not waiting around for people to pay their bills anymore. It used to be, it could be like 3 or 6 months, and if you hadn't made a payment, then they'll send you on to collections. For whatever reason now, 2 months, and you're sent on to collections. So it's a good idea when you get that first bill, and you know you're not going to be able to pay it in full, give them a call. Once again, opening up that line of communication, they can get you set up on some type of a payment arrangement. Depending on what your situation is with your finances, with your income at that particular time, they do have forgiveness programs. You fill out a hardship affidavit, and possibly they'll reduce it or they'll waive it completely. Okay, so always give those things a try before not paying it at all. And then finally, give ACCI a call. You know, we are there to help you. And we have offices in Topeka, Lawrence, and Manhattan. You do not have to physically come in and meet with us for a counseling session in person. We can meet with you over the phone, online, through email, so whatever's most convenient for you. We have tenant and landlord counseling, and our tenant and landlord counselors, they handle all of Kansas now. It used to be just Northeast Kansas, and they got this wonderful grant from the Kansas Housing Resources Corporation, so now they field calls from all over Kansas regarding tenant-landlord issues. And what they do is they tell you what your rights and responsibilities are in relation to whether you're a tenant or you're a landlord. Okay, so if you ever have questions regarding that, please feel free to give them a call. We have home buyer counseling. We also have a program in Topeka called Toto. If you're thinking of moving to Topeka at some point, we do have a housing program up there that works with the city of Topeka. Consumer credit counseling is probably what we're best known for now. That's what I am. That's what I do. So I handle financial counseling sessions. If you're thinking about bankruptcy, it's required that you go through some type of a pre-bankruptcy counseling before you actually file to get a certificate. Also, we have mortgage default counseling. So if you're having difficulty making your loan payment, there's loan modifications, there's other things, there's loss mitigation out there so you do not possibly have to go through that foreclosure process and lose your home. And we also offer student loan counseling. So if you have a student loan and you have questions, you're not able to make the payment, there's different repayment options out there that a lot of people aren't aware of, and we can educate you on those. We can be a support for you if you need to contact your servicer. That's what we do. We can't advocate, speak on your behalf, stuff like that, but we most definitely can be there trying to educate you and help you through whatever it is you're going through. And then finally, education. So I get asked by nice people like Osage County Economic Development to come down and meet with you all, but I go everywhere. So, and I talk about budgeting, credit, identity theft, student loans, you name it, here I am. So if you heard of anything of benefit that you think maybe somebody else could utilize at some point, feel free to give me a call. I'd be more than happy to come out and meet with them as well for a class. So, any questions for me? Okay.